Hi guys, welcome to Episodic Reading's first annual live chat. Well, it's not technically live since we're kind of pre-recording it for you. However, that doesn't mean that you don't get to enjoy this in your own time. So we are going to introduce the authors to you, and they're going to tell you some of their favorite ghost stories. And at any time, if you feel like you want to clue in and tell us a ghost story in the forum, you are more than welcome to do so. Please do so in the comments, or you can even start a discussion on your own. First things first, let's start with Stephen Cross and have him tell us his favorite ghost story.
Actually, mine's more than a story. It's a true event that happened to me probably when I was in high school, I guess, 15 or 16. We had a girl in our class that was supposedly a witch, but she was just a little bit strange, honestly, because she's a nice person. And she told me a story one time, and she said, "Why don't you ask the Ouija board where it gets its power from?" Well, I just kind of laughed at it, but once we were at my aunt's house, and my sister and my cousin actually had a Ouija board out and were playing with it. And I remembered what the supposed alleged witch had said. And I said, "Why don't you ask the Ouija board where it gets its power from?" I said, "Have you ever asked it that before or heard anything about that?" And my little sister said no. So they asked it. And it spelled out Satan, Satan. I was in the same room, I was watching it, and I saw the whole thing. But the really strange part is that it didn't stop there. It started calling my sister and my cousin all kinds of really bad names. And it didn't call her a witch, but it's very close, if you understand what I'm talking about. But it spelled it all out. And I thought maybe that it was the power of my mind that moved it. Since that's what I heard. But no, it was just really, really weird. And since that day, I haven't really even touched one.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of bizarre.
I like to think of it as like a ghost in the background, just being like, you know what? I'm bored.
I mean, really freak these people out.
Let's scare the shit out of these kids for everybody involved.
That's awesome. We had a Ouija board once that ended up locked in a closet because a friend of mine and I thought that it'd be a good idea to try to use it while our parents were out on a date night while we were home alone. And we heard my parents had like these saloon doors to the kitchen, and as we're using it, it's spelling out all these spooky things. The door started shaking, and we were both like, nope. We like locked it in the bathroom. My parents came home and had to like undo the lock because the door was locked from the inside, and then it ended up in a closet and never touched again. So pretty sure that's when all my problems started. Actually, we're going up down on
yourself. That's what happened. In case anybody doesn't know, KM West here is our resident witch, but we're not going to discuss that right now. We'll get to that later.
Okay. Oh, my lands.
Also, since Stephen just told us a great ghost story, guys, he's also the author of Tongue Tied, which is available to read on the platform right now. Right now, you can go in and read that amazing story and get lost in that at this very moment. And please comment and review. Our author, Marie Stewart, is also the author of Unhomed, is here to tell us her favorite ghost story as well. What you got, Marie? She froze.
That's the nature of live chats.
Dun, dun, dun. Nature of the live chat. She'll get back to us. And
okay, there she is.
Hey, there you go.
Hey.
Now you have to tell us our ghost story. I did this really good intro and didn't mess up.
That's okay. I will trust that you absolutely crushed the intro.
I did for once, and the next time I'm going to mess it up.
Well, I'm going to tell the story about how and why we carve jack-o'-lanterns.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very old story.
Nice.
And it was brought to the place where I'm from, which is Southern Appalachia, and by the Irish and the Scots who migrated down to that area of the country. And it was already an old story by the time they got there.
Yeah.
So I had the privilege of Ray Hicks, who was kind of the last great American storyteller to tell this story, and I got to learn it from him. So one day.
You froze again, Marie.
One day I have to know what happens.
We want to hear the story.
I'm dying with anticipation.
I know. Okay. one day, a long time ago, there was a boy named Jack, of course. And he was a rascal. He never meant to do any harm. He didn't mean anything mean or vicious, but he had a knack for finding mischief. And if anything could go wrong.
Ah, no.
I have to know.
I know. There's always a bad story about a boy named Jack. Has anybody ever, the name
No.
Jack spells trouble. You blipped out again there for a little bit.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Sorry.
Let me, the joys of living in small town.
Can you boost the signal from your phone, maybe?
No, I don't think I can.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Because I don't have a smartphone. I have a stupid phone.
Oh, there's a
That's fantastic. That alone is fantastic.
I used to have that too. I think they called it the Nokia, and it was also like a paperweight and or a brick if you were trying to commit some kind of civil disturbance.
Also a home defense system, you know? You just
Yeah, right.
lob it at somebody.
Self-protection. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, Marie, go.
Okay.
More freezes.
No, I'm disconnected. Okay, now we're back.
We can see you.
So
Right.
Jack was out for a ramble up and down the hills, and he heard a sound, and he was like, wait a minute, it's too perfect a day for somebody to be, what? I think they're crying. No, can't have them crying. It's too great a day. So,
No!
This is amazing because it's just like, it's just an added buildup.
Everybody's gonna be like, what the hell is going on? This thing
So
is
many dramatic pauses. That's fine. We can always like cut it out maybe.
We're gonna have to edit it later. You cut out again, Marie. I'm sorry.
can I just send you a sound file?
No, we want to know.
So Jack asked the little girl why she was crying, and she looked up with her sky blue eyes, and she said, look up there. Isn't that just the most perfectest apple you've ever
Damn it. Every time it gets
Seen.
good.
You've ever seen.
Yeah. Maybe we need to download the transcript and then have her come back in just video. Maybe. Here, I got an idea, Marie. How about you cancel out the connection and then clock back in, and we'll see if that doesn't improve your connection.
Okay.
Okay, so pause. We're on the sky blue eyes and why she's crying, and she said, look at the beautiful apple. We are waiting.
We are waiting. Okay, so let me get out of here. Leave.
Okay.
That's good enough.
We'll dance a little bit or something for everybody else. For everybody.
Absolutely.
That's the price moment, like, yeah. But that's about all I got.
Why?
Yeah, so just close it out and then come back in. We're still waiting for other people to join us too, folks. So sorry if this is our first time trying to attempt this without pre-recording. So we're not really good at it yet.
I have to go find a valid meeting ID, so I'll be right back.
Okay, I'll see you in a minute.
And I will have that in my browser. Here we go.
Okay. Steven, you got another ghost story for us?
Okay.
No.
Hey!
Work?
Yeah, it worked.
But
Yes!
I did on. Oh,
All right, hold that thought, Steven. Maybe her browser work will finish the rest of the story. We'll come right back to you, and then me and you can last.
Okay.
All right, Mari, let's hear it. There were sky blue eyes and the most beautiful apple we've ever seen.
Ever seen. And she sniffed and
Damn it! It's never gonna work. No,
We're never gonna know. We're gonna have to put together. She needs to do an exclusive blog post about this specific story just to fill us in the gaps.
I think so.
I think that's it. That's the only option that there is.
I'm like the best moment. You're like this.
I know. Same. I like get closer. I'm like, oh, and then what?
oh well, I've already got it written out, so I'll just post it.
Just add it to the comments on the post whenever I post it, please.
I will.
If you can, maybe record yourself telling it and then post that. That might be really, really handy because And that
That
would
gets me out of having to deal with the internet.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
okay, that's fair. Dang it! Did it again. All right, Steven, you're up again. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you have your Vincent Price shirt on.
Mhm.
On YouTube, I saw this morning a video clip of Vincent Price. He was on the Joan Rivers show, I think, 1987.
Was he
And
hot?
he did the Thriller rap on the show. And it was really pretty cool, that, you know, the way he did it.
Oh man, I loved him so much. He was my
Yeah.
favorite. Everything
Same.
aside from David Bowie, which is pretty obvious with me, like I'm obsessed with him. But Vincent Price was my number 2. We used to have a Saturday double feature like every day in Detroit when I was a kid, and they would always like show you, you know, like 2 Vincent Price features, or they'd show you 2 Peter Cushing features, so you could choose between the 2. And in case you didn't know, Kaylee, Peter Cushing used to be Dr. Van Helsing. And he would always fight Christopher Lee as Dracula, and it was great. Those are the Hammer Dracula films that are absolutely terrible and awesome at the same time. But anyway, they'd have the double feature, and then, you know, I got to see, I think that's how I became obsessed with Edgar Allan Poe, is because of Vincent Price. I mean, The Mask of the Red Death is probably the coolest movie I've ever seen. When I was a kid, I was like, whoa, did that happen? He was a Satanist, and he invited all these people into his castle, and they all died anyway? Oh my God, that's great. But you know, I love him. I loved him. He was amazing. And then when he died, I legit cried. He was the only other person besides David Bowie that was a famous celebrity that I was like, when they died. But yeah.
Have you ever read his story, Hop Frog?
I have not. Holy crap. Can you read, like, send me a link or something?
Oh, it's bizarre.
He was legit high all the time. I just want to throw it out there. He was a straight up drunk. Peter O'Toole made him like, Vincent Price, from what I understand, made Peter O'Toole look like he was like a teetotaler. Which, you know, okay, fair enough. If you're going to be coined as the Prince of Darkness, you might as well get into those Bacchanalias, you know. But anyway. Well, who is your favorite, Marie? Like, the actor from back in the day?
Oh, I love Bela Lugosi. Because, of course.
Yes.
Oh, Lugosi?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Sorry,
right.
I call him Bela
Dracula.
because, well, you know.
Yeah, I gotcha. But you're smarter than we are, so you gotta like, you gotta like tone it down for us dum-dums. I'm just saying. Like,
It's only because I got locked in a tower with a bunch of books.
I mean, that sounds like my perfect day.
Isn't it just? You know? Like, no, I don't need to go out. I'm fine.
Yeah, right. I'll just be here. See ya in 20 years.
I feel like that's like a chronic case of all people who write books.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, that'd be fine.
Exactly. Throw them a bone. Send them up to tea. As long as I got books and more paper, they'll be fine.
Yeah, right.
Right.
You have children, you're just like, I don't know, feed yourself, figure it out. Bye. Like,
Yeah.
I'm busy.
Waiting for that point where they can feed themselves. It's a long way away.
I would just like to point out to people that are viewing this that we have a lot more authors than this, but they all bailed on us. So now we're just here trying to dance for your pleasure. So bear with us, please. All right, Steven, you got any other stories for us?
Well, you did know that Vincent Price was from Missouri, and we lived in a house in Arcadia, Missouri, and supposedly the lady who owned the house a long time ago knew Vincent Price. And the legend is that he was actually in the house that we lived in for a while. But don't know if that's true or not, but that's what we heard when we lived there.
That is when I would need a Ouija board, like for sure.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
Like,
Vincent, you here?
I don't know. Those things are dangerous. I don't trust them. They make great decorations, but like, oh, keep it locked in the closet as far as I'm
I
concerned.
never had a bad experience with a Ouija board. Okay, let me explain. I would get in the basement of my grandmother's house, which was in fact that neighborhood in Taylor, Michigan used to be on a Native American burial ground, but that's besides the point. So I kept waiting for poltergeist to happen, and it never did, and I was really bummed out about it. But anyway, like, we had a Ouija board down in the basement, and it like even concaved in the middle when there's like a drain,
Like Jumanji.
and like weird sounds would come out of the drain, and I'd be like, yeah, there's ghosts. But no, I was sitting with my cousins, and we ended up getting in a fist fight in the because one of them was pushing. I was like, I see your ass. Like,
Sounds right.
like, no, not me. And I was like, really? And then it just ended up in a tussle. So that was my only experience really with Ouija boards. I can't say anything happened to it. But
I never played with one. It was
Really?
always, no, I'm not going to do that. Forget it.
So my husband has this this general motto. So like I'm kind of a weirdo, right? And
Really?
I have yeah, so fun fact. So I have narcolepsy, and one of the side effects of that are what's known as these hypnopompic and hypnagogic hallucinations. And so I have a habit of seeing things that aren't really there, usually when I'm sleeping. So I'm super terrifying, like in general, to be around. Like his favorite story is like the time he woke up and I was like standing at the window, just like looking out into the yard, like, and he was like, nope, like rolled back over. And then I think there was another time I woke him up screaming, and then, you know, he sat up obviously in a panic and was like, what's wrong? And I was like, were you just choking me? He was like,
anybody that
no.
hasn't read that book, they should read that book anyway.
Yeah, but he of course was like, no, I was not. And I was like, oh, it must have been that lady on the ceiling then. And then I just like went back to sleep. Like I'm kind of the worst, like truly. But so that said, he has this motto where I'm always like, oh, you know what'd be so fun? We should go on like a ghost hunt, or like all these places in America that are haunted. I'm like, we should go. It'd be so cool. And he's like, I'm not taking you any of these places, because if I take you, you're going to like come back with one. And like, we're going to end up haunted in our house. Like I've seen this movie and I know what happens. So his motto is he doesn't F with ghosts. Like we don't, he's like, I don't believe in them, but I don't mess with them. Like I'm not chancing it.
I do not blame him. Daniel's got smarts, man. Like,
Yeah.
I would do those things with you and be like, completely ready to be terrified. But
Yeah.
if I had to live with you every single day of my life, I'd be like, no, I'm not really trying to wake up and go play with
Right.
and have some weird stuff hanging on the corner of my eye.
Oh man.
Zoom just messaged me to be like, we're giving you a gift of more time.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I guess we need it. So
I saw it too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I had an experience one time years ago. The guy I was dating was claimed to be a shaman.
Okay. Yeah, that's what's up.
And he was very into the macabre and strange things happening. And so living with him was kind of like living with, Halloween 24/7.
That's like my house.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
one day we went to go check out a house that we were thinking about renting. And we walked in there and walked through each of the rooms. And then he went off to talk to the person who had the lease. And I decided I'd check out some of the other rooms. And I walked into the back bedroom. And the instant I walked in there, it was like, and I felt like every single eye in the world was looking at me.
Yeah.
And it was freezing cold. And I was like, that's it. I am out of here.
Not the house.
And we didn't get the house, but I grabbed the boyfriend and I said, we're getting out. We're leaving now. And he's like, what? You had something happen? What? Let me go.
He was probably jealous.
He was super jelly. He was like, oh, all this time I've been totally faking it, and here she goes, 2 seconds in a room. Something happens to her.
I had that happen to me like 2 weeks ago. I was at a store here. So I am actually at the Guthrie Green in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So there's a little plug for my outdoor space that I'm hanging out at. But I went into the store, and I won't necessarily name it, although it probably would benefit them. But it's like an oddity store. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. I love spooky things. So I walked in and, it's oddities. So it's like some antiques, and it's like some, animal bones, and like, an assortment of things. But there was like an old clothing rack, and I was like, oh, legit, because I love to costume, and I do costumes every day in October. So I was like, I am going to check out these like old thrift clothes. And I brushed up against this like 80s bomber jacket and got the worst feeling, like straight up goosebumps, nauseous stomach. I was like, oh, I need to leave. I just like walked out, was like, I'm not okay.
Remember what I said for you watchers? Remember what I said about being the resident witch? I'm not kidding. Like, she's the one person.
It's super spooky. Super spooky. I don't know if I'd subscribe to the title, but it definitely, spooky.
Yeah, I believe you, and I know that I probably want to buy the jacket.
I have a question for y'all.
Yeah.
How does this make you feel, Kaylee? What was
Not
that?
good. Not good.
I had a question for you, and just I'd like your opinion. Do you think there are places in the world that are just like evil? You know, like they have a built-in evil, and for some reason, maybe because something bad's happened there, or there's some kind of ghastly spirit. What do you
Well,
think?
I follow quantum physics, and I do. I can't propose that I understand it implicitly, because I just don't. You have to be extremely brilliant to get the odds and angles of that. However, the basics, the bare gist that I do understand, explains that the multiverse, everything that has happened and everything that is ever going to happen, everything in your life, every decision that you've ever been faced with, you've made. And you've made all of these different decisions. So the multiverse is limitless. And I believe personally that some things above our level maybe sticks around, because, or maybe the veil's like thin between those two worlds or something, and you can kind of catch a glimpse of each other and be like, wait, what? So, but yeah, I think that maybe sometimes if something's super traumatic or something super leaves an indelible impression across all of those multiverse, all of the different universes, maybe that, could be a quote unquote evil spot. I don't know. That's just my opinion on the matter.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of belief systems that hold that, like, the land will hold experiences, right? And so, like, whenever you talk about like battlefields and areas like that where you've just seen so much suffering, they have a tendency to hold that memory, I guess you could say. And so I think there's some of that too. I don't know. I try to, my husband won't go to any of the haunted places with me because he doesn't mess with ghosts. So, here I am.
You're hanging out with a medium. Yeah, no. You know what I'm saying? I feel Daniel's pain. I do. I mean, I would kind of like to be there because I think it'd be cool. But at the same time, I get it. You know what I mean?
Kaylee, you should come down and visit me, and we can go to Appomattox. So if you want
I would love to
sit around and wait for the ghost troops to come across Appomattox.
Right. To what Lene was saying, because I cut out and cut back in, but I definitely believe there's something to that everything that's ever happened and everything that will happen is kind of infinitely happening. And so just where we cross over or tap in, or I don't know, maybe
I think
maybe some folks are sensitive. Or just weirdos, honestly. Like, it really chalks up to just ultimately me being a super weirdo.
No, I just think some people are sensitive.
Yeah, I definitely could agree with that. But I don't know. I walk this funny line of like, I don't know if I believe, like half the time I'm like, I don't believe in this nonsense, and then the other half the time I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's real. Like,
yeah, but you don't believe in nonsense, right? You know what I mean? Some people that are just like, I had this girl come up to me at a Starbucks one time, and she was like, all floaty the way that she walked, and like I was like, oh shit, here we go. I think this is back when I used to drink. I don't do that anymore, kids. Don't drink. But anyway, like, she came up to me and she was like, you're going to have an incredible destiny. And the way she looked at me, she was looking at me like this, and I was like, okay, cool, we gotta go. So that kind of thing, no. But I mean, I have seen,
maybe this is it.
Yourself.
Maybe this is your incredible destiny.
I'm doing terrible Zoom meetings for everyone. That's what I do.
You're young yet. There's still time.
We can make them much worse. Trust me.
Yeah, you could have got a death omen, so like, it could have been
fair enough. And
could have been far worse
today. So, but no, I think some people are obvious charlatans, and then some people kind of, you get a feeling from them, and I can't like describe what it is, but I guess it's just like altruism. There's something altruistic about them and about their personality and the way that they compose themselves. So I kind of always had the ability to kind of differentiate between people who are about to tell me something mythical that is bullshit, and then somebody who is legitimately sensitive, or at least very much believes in what they're espousing. I don't know if everybody has that ability, but I do. Anyway, that's my only take on that.
It's fair. That's fair.
Placement.
You've reminded me of something, and I'm trying desperately to pick the threads out of my memory. My memory's like a sieve, so.
And I think somebody was telling me yesterday that I was like, why am I so dumb now? They're like, because you're getting older. I'm like, awesome, I don't like you anymore. Stop
I'm
talking.
62. Don't be talking about old.
With,
My memory's perfect, Stephen. I bet it is.
no, my memory problems are not because of age. It's definitely mileage.
Oh,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So at the time that I was dating the shaman dude,
that
I
guy.
was
That
very
guy.
much,
That guy.
I was
We all
very
dated that
much
guy.
into wearing black.
Yeah.
And Halloween would come around
Damn it.
black from head to toe.
Yes.
And of
As
course,
one should.
as one should, exactly. It's the perfect time on that one. And so I'm sitting there and I'm all through the mall in small town America. And I have a very, very lovely little old woman come up to me, and she's got the knitted shawl on, and it was just kind of a little bit freaky how perfectly she fit kind of the thought of somebody's grandmother who baked cookies would look like.
Yeah.
And she stopped and she said, "Dear, are you saved?"
Oh no.
How do I finish this conversation?
Oh no.
Uh,
I was
Why?
I was one of those people that was wearing all black and then hanging out at random places like Pensacola downtown where the Pensacola Christian Academy is, and then they would like take to the streets to proselytize, and I would take to the streets to mess with them. That was my entire enjoyment every single weekend. So
That feels accurate.
I
Like, I feel like
asshole.
everything I know about you just like further confirms what I know about you. I'm like, this is you. This is you as a person. I love it.
Against a brick wall wearing like a class teacher, like, "Hey kid, what's up? Let me tell you about your religion." I'm 17 at the time, by the way, so I was sound like a 45-year-old woman, but whatever.
Oh, dear.
Stephen, what were you like when you were young? What did you believe in? Were you scared of ghosts?
Well, that's a long story. I think when I was young, I don't know that I was really scared of ghosts. I kind of had, I didn't really think about it that much. I don't think I was really. Well, I went to a church that was really big about stuff like that, evil and demons and that kind of thing. But honestly, I was just weird when I was a kid. So
Another theme of the authors.
All of us are weird. I think we've completely covered that all of us are weird. That's
Mhm.
we write books.
But no, I don't know. It would be hard. When I say I was weird, I really was weird. It would be hard to describe me to other people. And I think that was because, I don't want to get into this too much, but I think, I'm bipolar. And I think that started when I was really young, like 13 or 14. And it wasn't until I was probably 30 that I was really actually, diagnosed. But it was just, like I said, I was just strange.
I have a condition called CPTSD, and my first symptoms started like 13, and there was a time period in there where I didn't know if it was today or if it was yesterday or if it was tomorrow.
Oh wow.
And I was so dissociated from the world that I was kind of like, oh, wait a minute, we've had this conversation before, and it's going to go like this. And people were like, what? And I'd be like, no, don't worry about it. We'll get past this. You're going to have a little bit of a freak out, and then we'll be okay. And they'd have a little bit of a freak out, and then they.
Oh wow.
And I've had a couple of times like that. One was in college, and this just reminded me of the story I had, which is the time I was in college. I was really depressed. I was to the point where I was like suicidal. I'm gonna jump off the top of the building, and that'll be the end of it. And as I walked up to the top of the dorm building, which was 10 stories, as I got to the 9th landing, I think it was, I saw my aunt standing there, and I saw my younger cousin who had died in a car accident.
Oh, wow.
And they were both like, I was like,
Oh, wow.
what? So
How
that
ambiguous
was,
can you get? Like, tell me what it means. Like,
yeah, I was kind of like, oh boy, okay, fine. So I walked back down the stairs.
yeah. I'd be like, okay, that's cool. Awesome. I gotta go. I don't know what that means, but all right, bye. Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah.
Well, after my mom died, I had a dream about her, and my mom was always the big one who did the holidays, Christmas and Thanksgiving and stuff like that. And in the dream, she was preparing for Christmas, I think, and I was talking to her, and all of a sudden he hit me, and I said, "Mom, aren't you dead?" And she looked at me and said, "Not really." And that was just kind of freaky. Yeah, she
Yeah.
died right before Thanksgiving,
Oh my
and I don't know. I had a lot of things like that happened after she died that were kind of scary, but at the same time, maybe I don't know, reassuring.
Yeah.
If they could, it was strange.
Comforting, yeah.
My sister told me a story. This would be my best friend, actually. We've been best friends for about 25 years now, so I'm going to pirate her story. I'm going to pirate somebody else's here in a little bit, too, because the only ghost story I have involves alcohol. So that maybe is what happened. But anyway, it is in Ireland, though, and it's pretty cool. Anyhow, my sister told me a story, like, recently, actually. She had been thinking about an ex-boyfriend of hers, and we were sitting on the beach, and we're laying there. I live in Florida. We're sitting on the beach, and we're laying there. She's like, I wonder what happened to Jamie, this ex. And I was like, oh God, I don't know. I'm not friends with him on Facebook or anything like that. She's like, I think he's dead. And I was like, why do you think this? And she said, because I had a dream that we were sitting at a table having coffee with one another, and I took a sip and he took a sip, and then he looked at me and I said, you're dead, aren't you? And he said, yes, I am. And that was the end of the dream. And I was like, she said she woke up, and then I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. Not 2 days later, his sister posted a memoriam for him. He had died the year before. So the day that she had the dream, he probably died that day. So super
wow.
weird, right? Like, that's, and she's not one of those people that is bullshitting. She's one of those people that's altruistic,
Right.
never tells you anything unless it's the truth. So that was a pretty spooky story. Like, I totally understand how you must have felt, because I can imagine you could see it like really disturbed her. She was really genuinely freaked out by that, and I'm still freaked out by it. But
yeah,
anyway.
understandably.
Yeah.
Let's say that's spooky. That's some spooky stuff.
Yeah. I'm like, please don't have any dreams about me, Diane. Thank you. Just don't dream about me.
Schedule.
I don't want to know. The other story that I have is actually, I used to work for this lady, and she's like the tiniest. She's like, I mean, you could keep her in a pocket. She's so teeny, like little blonde, bubbly, super nice lady. And she's from Detroit, just like me. And she's from Detroit when it was real rough back in the day. So she was downtown, doing the things that young folk do, and decided to leave her friends. And she was walking back to a car, and it was dark, and it was, cold. So she had her jacket zipped up, and she had her scarf pulled tight, so she couldn't see anything out of her peripherals. And as she's walking, this bus driver looks at her through the bus window and starts laying on the horn, like beep, 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 beep. And she's like ignoring them because, what the fuck is a bus driver beeping at me for?
Because she's a person in a movie? Who ignores that? I'd be like, oh, obviously I'm in imminent danger. Like that.
Well, she just didn't. I mean, obviously
I'm judging your friend
too, but she started walking faster. And then the bus driver like opens the bus door. She hooks it outside and she's like, you stay your ass there. And then to somebody that she couldn't see, so the lady stops. And the bus driver comes over. She's like, girl, get your ass on this bus right now. And literally, the lady turns around. Her name is Pam. The lady turns around and she looks behind her. And there's a guy putting a knife back in his jacket, and he ducks around the alley back around the corner. He was going to pull her into that alley, and she would not have made it out alive. And that was also a year where there was a serial killer in Detroit doing the exact same thing for a very long time. So that scared the shit out of me. I had chills when she told me that story. I was like, oh my God, you were like this close. But anyway, those are the only 2 stories that I really have. So,
That's terrifying. That's not even a ghost story. That's just a straight up scary story. Like a.
it's a Wednesday Addams story, man. Like,
Yeah, that's
I'm
terrifying.
dressed like this because serial killers look like everybody else. You know
No,
what I mean?
Wednesday would have turned
That's
around and
nuts.
gotten the knife from him and said, "What? How do you want to play?"
Yeah, right, probably. You know, I miss the Addams Family. Speaking of, that was a great show. All right, Kaylee, you are up, girl. You need to tell me a story.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know which story to tell. I have a good many. Most of them. So like I said, I have this problem where I hallucinate things that aren't real, and so you know, sometimes they'll be like, I've had a Native American lady give me a white bear's head, like as a gift. Like I woke up and she was standing beside my bed and she handed me this white bear's head. And I've woken up and there was a dead woman, like a drowned woman in my bed one time. There was a little girl standing in my bathroom. So like a lot of like real spooky, like just, you know, the other day I half dozed off while Daniel was getting ready for bed, my husband. And like I was not super, like I didn't think I was asleep. But when I opened my eyes, there was a woman standing behind him, wearing like a 80s nightgown, like long, but like 80s style. Like she was pretty 80s tastic. And when he turned around, like she was standing right behind him and he turned around and she like jumped out of his way, like jumped back. And he walked right past her. And then she looked at me and was like, ooh, close call. And then like vanished. I was like, oh yeah, super close call, lady.
Got an 80s ghost trying to seduce her husband. That's awesome.
Yeah, you know, so like there's just like some weird. I will tell a story about so probably one of the most recent scary dreams I've had, or hallucinations I guess I've had. I actually, to piggyback off of Steven's story, I met Satan one time. So this is a fun one. So I don't like to sleep alone. So like the way it works is basically like when I sleep by myself, I don't have a good gauge as to like how much of this is actually happening and how much of it isn't, right? So like generally if I wake up and I see people standing at the foot of my bed and I roll over and my husband is sound asleep, then I'm like, they're not there. And then I go back to bed, right? Like that feels like a, you know, safe bet, or else he'd be awake. And so when there's no one there, I have a harder time with that. So he was out of town, and I had put my daughter down to bed and I'd locked all the doors, and we had pretty much done a sweep of the house, and I locked my bedroom door because I'm already amped up. I've had a glass of wine. I'm like, okay, all you gotta do is sleep. Just gotta sleep. And so I go in there and I start trying to go to sleep. And as I am drifting off, I hear what sounds like radio static, and like a crowd cheering. And so I kind of open my eyes, and beside my bed, there are like these 2 figures that you can't quite make out. They're just like kind of standing there and they're murmuring to each other. So they're saying something and I can't quite understand them. And so I'm like, yeah, those are probably not real. So I like roll back over and like, okay, I'm just gonna go to sleep. Like I tuck myself under my covers, and I get, you know, nice and cozy. And then I'm like drifting away and someone grabs me by the shoulder. And so like rolls me over. And by then I'm like thoroughly freaked out. So I like curl up and I'm like, okay, it's fine. Super fine. Super normal. Not like out of the realm of possibility. So I'm just kind of like, okay, this is fine. And I'm trying to go back to sleep. I'm like watching YouTube videos on my phone, like trying to pass the time or whatever. And eventually I do doze back off. And when I wake up, there's actually a scene in Wild Things Will Roam that's built around this specific hallucination. I wake up and standing around the entire room are like 7 different figures. So like they're all these people. And in my hallucinatory state, I'm certain that they're like individual gods, right? So like they have like different attire, like one's like in full African garb and like Egyptian garb, and like I'm real spooked. And on my dresser is like a real sharp looking man eating an apple, who I know to be Satan. And he's just like chilling. Everybody else is standing like a pillar, and this guy is just like eating an apple, like who makes the rules here? And I told a friend about it. So obviously I didn't sleep very well that night. It was kind of intermittent, like in and out like that. But a friend of mine, she was like, did he have like horns? And I was like, no, this is like the sexy Satan. This is like Paradise Lost Satan, not like, like based on Pan and all the other goat gods. Like, no, definitely like human Satan or whatever. But yeah, so that's like the one time I had an interaction with, a deity of some kind. Most of the time it's just like spooky people hovering over me in my sleep or whatever. But so that's my resident spooky story. I actually wrote about that. Like I said, that's a scene in the book. And then I did a blog post on it a long time ago, so I'll drop that too in the link about that. It has more of the detail, but that was the gist of it. So that's my spooky story.
I wouldn't know what to do. You're way stronger than me. I would have woken up and been like, okay, I'm either super psychic or I'm super crazy. I don't know what's going on.
So I will say, like, the hard part, so like, again, I didn't know until I was in college that these were like a diagnosable thing, like sleep paralysis was a thing. And so I grew up in a household that was very religious. And then like my grandmother, so my parents are religious, but like non-denominational religious. So it was just like regular, like happy Jesus. But my grandmother is from the Philippines. And so she was like Catholic Jesus plus Filipino superstition. So there were like these like baby eating monsters that would come get you. And also Catholicism has a tendency to be a little bit heavier duty on like the doom and gloom. And so like between those two, for a long time, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I can see demons. Like I had like a youth minister who taught us about spiritual warfare. And I read the Screw Tape Letters. I was probably in the 6th grade. And for a while there, I was like really adamant that like I was not safe, like really, really nervous. And like, it was such a catch-22 because the idea of like all those possession movies, like Exorcism of Emily Rose and all that nonsense, was like, the more you believe, the more likely you are to be possessed. So I had to like find this like niche where I would like pray for safety, but not like pray too hard or else like then maybe the demons would come get me. So it was kind of it was a weird phase of my life. And then later I found out this, the sleep paralysis and the hallucinations are part of narcolepsy. And I was like, cool. So there's like some science behind it. But in the moment, it always seems really real. And that's the thing, like during the day, I'm like, oh, right, LOL, hallucinations. But they seem very real at the time, which is, I mean, the nature of, I guess, hallucinations. But yeah, so that's probably my spooky story, and where my book comes from. If you're curious, you want to check it out. Those of you watching, it's got some spooky stuff in it that's kind of like that. So
that's some of the stories she just told us in that book, by the way, and it kept me up. So I'm just gonna let y'all know, if you haven't read it, you need to. You really.
It is. It's scarier in the book. I'm a better writer than I am a speaker.
Finished its run today, so very soon it's going to be available for ebook and hardcover. November 27th. Anyway, we're going to get into that in a little bit. But anyhow,
cool.
I've had nightmares, right? Just like regular boring ass, like normal people nightmares. That have kept
those are pretty scary too, though.
Awake. Like it's usually the movies like the movie Life, which was terrible. It was not a good movie. It was just completely ridiculous. Like not a good movie at all. But the thought of that alien eating him slowly at the end of it, I was like, no, man, it's not for me. And it kept me awake all night long. Additionally, I'm scared of bears. Really scared of bears. And I'm a photographer, in case anybody didn't know. And I will be standing in the middle of a river in the middle of fall when bears are starving and they got to put on 700 pounds before they go hibernate. And I'll be being really, really quiet, looking around like, I'm alone. This is great. And this time around, I was just in North Carolina. I saw a bunch of bear tracks and a bunch of bear signs and whatever. We won't talk about it. But anyhow, there's that movie Backcountry. That, you know what I'm talking about? Dude, I can never watch that movie again. Never. No. I had the worst series of nightmares for like a week after that. Yeah. And even then, like I couldn't imagine waking up and having actual figures standing over me or standing in my room, or I just, to be able to deal with that means that you are super mega strong or you're just super psychic. I don't know. It's not out there. It's a possibility.
crazy is another word. You know,
Nah.
there's also that. No, I will say I did look into the white bear's head, and I don't know if anybody else, if anybody watching might have more information. I'm super interested in it, so leave that in the comments too, if you do. But I did read somewhere that like white animals are a like sign or like a pulse of change, and so I had that dream at the beginning of this year. So I'm like, well, it has been quite a year of change. So like perhaps she really was gifting me, you know, like a warning.
Can you give it back? Because I just need to know.
Like a warning. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is. I mean, it wasn't like a thing I got to keep, unfortunately.
Thank you, Dream Lady, for this terrible year. Love the rest of us.
Yeah. You can blame her, I think. That's a good
Well,
one.
speaking of white animals being sacred and leading to catalytic change, you know, the Sons of Meal begins with a white stag.
Yes.
Everything about Celtic history.
Yes, it does.
You could touch a white stag and you've cursed your entire family forever. You have ushered in changes that you will never be able to stop. And it's a catalyst for a lot of really terrible things that happen in my book. But anyway, if you want to check that out, guys, that's the Sons of Meal, and also available at episodicreading.com. Marie, do you have any stories for us about animals?
Animal story. Yeah.
White bear heads, for example, because I really need to know.
Actually, I worked at the Cornell Vet College for a while. And while I worked at the Cornell Vet College, I got to help the photographer take pictures around the college of the various animals that we were treating.
That's awesome.
And
That is awesome.
you're going to love this one.
It's a bear? I gotta go.
It was a bear. It was a grizzly bear that they had
No.
brought in from Rosamond Gifford Zoo. And the poor thing was very ill, and it was tranquilized out of its mind.
Aw.
But its head was bigger around than my arms could go around.
Oh my
I
God.
was
That's
like,
nuts.
okay. And the photographer was saying, no, get down lower. No,
I'd be like, nope. Gotta go pull something.
not gonna
So
happen.
good. Thank you. Appreciate
I would like to point out that I love bears. Oh, here's Karen. What up, Karen?
Hey.
Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Hello.
See you. Well, we don't see
Sorry.
you. So I'll finish my
Okay,
stupid
sorry.
bear story. Hey.
Hello. Sorry.
Hi.
Time change. The clocks
fine.
went back last. Sorry.
Always blaming this being in England nonsense. We don't care.
Yes.
You're perfectly fine. You are perfectly fine.
You're
We're
totally good.
excited to have you.
Hello.
Good
We
to
have
see you
all
too.
told stories, and we're waiting for you. Hello. How are you? Everybody, there's a child present. No swearing.
Hi. That's you. You're the only one.
What? You're the only one. I speak to you every day, Kaylee. You stop it.
I know. No. I meant on camera. I am not cussing on camera.
I did it. I only did it like once. Maybe twice.
It's fine. It's
To
fine.
finish my bear story before I kick it off to Karen for a story, I would just like to point out for the animal lovers that are going to jump on the thread and have like, oh, bears are blah, blah. Listen, I already know. If I'm terrified of something, I'm an expert. I'll become an expert because I will lurk everything there is to know about it online for an entire year. So anyway, I know that bears are not evil and they're actually quite cute, but you know, they eat you alive. I'm just gonna throw that out there. There's a reason to be legitimately scared of a bear. So haters hate on, and I'm just gonna continue, you know, being normal and being afraid of big scary predators. So hello, Karen. How are you today?
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
I'm fine, thank you.
You have a moment in your life where you ever came across a ghost or something that you felt like was like kind of a
I have some friends that used to do Ouija boards and automatic writing back in high school, and past life regressions. And I never kind of went with it. It didn't really work for me, but I had a friend who we could hypnotize her like that, which was cool and creepy. And we had automatic writing where she'd go into a trance and then her hand would move and write beautifully. And that used to creep me right out. And I would always start crying. So that was my
Fair.
Halloween experience. Because I don't do well with ghosts and that kind of thing. But yes.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
You don't mess with ghosts. I told everybody that's my husband's motto is I don't mess with ghosts. Like he doesn't think they're real, but like if they are, why would you take that chance?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, and every house we've ever lived in, my husband has sworn has been haunted. And I'm just like, well, that's silly. But I've lived in a house that we used to go out to the garage to smoke sometimes. I hope my mother doesn't see this. And we have to cross the backyard to get to the garage. And I don't really believe in ghosts so much, but there was something in the backyard that was not friendly. And we would walk from the house and we would sprint, like in university, we'd sprint across the backyard, and in the garage was fine. And we'd leave the back, like even in daylight, and you'd sprint to get back to the house because there's something dark there, and you could feel it. So.
Canada?
Yes.
Canada, it was definitely a bear. I'm just throwing that out.
That's the most logical thing. And also, I'm feeling super inspired. So nobody be surprised if in like my next installment, there's like a scene where there's something haunting them and they think it's a ghost and it ends up being a bear, just for Lindsay.
That'd be awesome.
And then make sure you don't, leave a little message about how I'm going to cry myself to sleep at the end of that episode. That'd be great.
I've got a story in progress that I've called Stone Grinder.
Ooh.
And it's all about basically the hierarchy in hell and how you get to be moved up
Oh, yeah.
in the hierarchy.
Wow, that's awesome.
But is that better or worse? Like, what's the?
Better to rule, right?
Yeah.
It's still higher is better in the hierarchy. And then
Okay.
Stone Grinder is pretty much where you start out. You just start out grinding the sulfurous stone that they make brimstone out of.
Oh.
Yeah.
What was this for? What was this?
Oh, it's the idea is that there's a very junior level demon, and
Yeah.
his task is to grind up stone with his hands and his feet and his
Yeah.
teeth. As
Now,
and he finally gets his big chance to
That stone's
move
being
on
ground.
from
Yeah.
the next position.
Karen, goddamn it. I like the name Stone Grinder. So when he gets does he have to challenge a bunch of other demons or something, or like what happens to him?
Oh, it's wonderful what he has to do in order to get to be the next level up.
I think you should have to tell us this story in the forum, in the comments, at least a little bit, synopsis, just for science, so that we can all read it.
Just for science.
I just want to know what happens.
I'm supportive of this 100%.
For science.
The only scary stuff that I really write, it's in the Sons of Meal, and I just wrote an article for Episodic, and I put it on our forum, which we're all going to discuss later on, because I want everybody to be writing these articles. But anyway, I just wrote our first article, and it's about the history of Halloween, which, if anybody does not already know who's watching this, it began in Ireland, and the Irish were not happy people necessarily. They lived a life full of darkness. The only lights that you had were the sun or a bonfire, essentially. So, and remember, this is at the end of an ice age. So these people are kind of gathered together in these huts. They live to be about maybe 35 to 38 years old. They're surrounded by forests that are dark and whispering all the time. So they kind of develop like an inordinate fascination with death, which, I grew up in Detroit, and that was pretty depressing too. So, fair enough, right? So they kind of, it's cold and dark. I'm just throwing it out there.
I think it's fair. That's a fair comparison.
Yeah, it's really similar, except for the violence and murder. It's really, really similar. But anyway,
Maybe life expectancy
kind of, comes from this region, and I can't remember what I was going to talk about this, but essentially the only parts about Halloween that people maybe don't know is that it was about sacrifice. If a harvest went hard, if something bad happened in the village, something terrible occurred, they lost a lot of people, invaders attacked, whatever. Well, what would the druids propose? They would propose that, hey, let's burn a guy alive and then scatter his ashes all over the fallow fields to make sure that we get a good harvest for the next year. And the ironic thing about their sacrifice as well is usually when it was something really, really serious, they only ever sacrificed noblemen. So I don't know. I think maybe that could be something we could get on now, and I'd be totally fine with that. But, The Halloween traditions of, bribing the ghosts and spirits of the underworld not to invade your house have
With
made it
candy?
to the United States because the Irish came over here in droves, 2 million of them between 1845 and 1848. And they came and they brought their culture. At first, they were completely reviled. Nobody in the United States liked the Irish very much, but they adopted their practices anyway. And
We're really a whimsical people, so delightful.
I mean, especially if you
Scots,
see
we're
the
very New York.
masks from like the 1890s to the 1930s, they're terrifying. That is way scarier than anything I've ever seen. Just the photographs of people standing, families, with these awful masks. Ugh.
Mm.
But anyway, by about the 1930s, little kids are like taken to the street to beg for candy. And what
Yeah, I think we should bring back the scary masks, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
Just
agree wholeheartedly. No more
throwing it out there.
But anyway,
Although
you get
my
these.
daughter did ask if we could all be vampires this year, so we're busting out our spooky.
Now you have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. But so essentially what they're doing is they're bribing off the dead. Back in the day in ancient Ireland, they would put like bowl or milk or bread or goat's milk or something on their windowsill or on their doorstep, and they would try to keep lights in every available opening to their house. And why? Because the sluach, that would be the dead, are afraid of the light. They're afraid of that. So they would come and take their treats, and then they would flee because they're, the light is there. I can't be there. Let's go someplace where the light is not. So whenever you see a bunch of little kids running around, they're basically, in homage to a group of dead people or wicked people that are going from house to harm other people. So that's interesting. But in the Sons of Meal, that's really the only scary thing, and that's a small spoiler for season 2.
It's amazing.
Off the charts. And
It's amazing. And I genuinely amazing. Sons of Meal is really, really great in general, but the second season, for those of you who have not had the opportunity to read the first, I would suggest obviously starting there. But go ahead and read that now because the second season's coming and it gets awesome, especially when she gets into Samhain. I'm very excited about it. So it's
Cool.
I mean, I don't know if y'all trust my opinion on spooky things, but you should, and it's great. So
it's that part of the book is actually the only thing that I write, I think, that is very scary.
it's really good.
The end of the book it's a march. But it does cover Samhain. It does explain a lot of the traditions that the ancient Celts used in ancient Ireland. So they're not for the faint of heart. That's all I'm gonna say. But anyway, Stephen, do you have any other stories besides Tongue Tied that are kind of spooky that we might be able to read soon?
No, not really. I tend to write, a lot of young adult stuff, and I like mental health, of course, and I write a lot about mental health and that kind of thing. But what I'm working on now, it's a little strange. There's a little bit of backstory, and I'll make it quick. But one of my former students, wrote something on Facebook, and I had a question about it. So I messaged her, and we got involved in a conversation, and I found out that I wasn't really talking to one of my former students. I was talking to one of my former students' alternate personality.
Oh,
She was multiple personality, and she had 12 different personalities within her. And I started talking to her, and I was actually writing a book trying to write a screenplay about that thing when I kind of stumbled onto her. And she's been talking to me about what goes on with her and how the different personalities communicate with each other, and it's really, really fascinating. And I've talked to psychiatrists because I don't want to say anything that will set her off, anything that's traumatizing. But it's really interesting, some of the things that she has told me. Amazing.
Awesome.
But it's not spooky, it's fascinating. And I have learned so much more about it, and things that I'd never have understood. But it's really neat because I'll message her, and sometimes I'll be talking to one personality, and sometimes I'll be talking to another, and it's just really, really cool. Come to find out that the girl that I thought was my former student, she wasn't the one that was actually in my class. One of her alternative personalities was in my class.
Wow.
And like I said, it's just been really, really interesting to talk to her. And I appreciate that she's been really forthright about everything.
Yeah.
You know, there's no question I ask that's too dumb, and she just patiently explains. But that's kind of what I'm working on right now.
That's awesome. That's really,
That'll
really
be really.
Marie actually has a lot of writing. She writes a lot about, and she blogs about mental illness frequently. And her books are really, really, really fascinating. Maybe you guys get together because, you know, the things that she talks about, like, they're very important and they're hard hitting. So I think for the two of you to kind of to broach these topics, and it's very interesting for people, but it's also like illuminating,
Important
to understand. Yeah, very important. I like that. I can't wait to read what you come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, because I want to know what she has to say too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's interesting. And to be able, I can't imagine being that person, but at the same time, imagine how strong that person has to be, and that's the thing that I have to, I guess, respect the most about it. To get through such a difficult, I couldn't imagine. I really just couldn't. Karen, do you have anything upcoming for us besides the brand new, newly debuted Ground Control, which, by the way, is on episodicreading.com right now? Just go look at it.
Well, I'm putting it off to the side, not going to think about it as of Sunday, because I'm doing NaNoWriMo, and I need 30 days to write every day. So that's my plan, and it has a graveyard in it. I know that already, but it's not spooky as such. But it's going to have some twists and turns and family drama and confusion, and so I'm excited. But it'll be nice to put something to the side for a bit, and
That's awesome.
To get out of
That's
it.
awesome.
And it's awesome.
I will. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
I was just gonna shamelessly plug for Alan Rivers' story that's out right now, because it is super spooky. It is Things Forgotten, and I will say, to your question earlier, Stephen, about spaces being evil, I think he really taps on that idea about like a place becoming a part of the fabric of a person, and how the people become a part of a place, and you know how that can be you know, for better or for worse. It's very, very good, but it also has kind of that a little bit of that family drama aspect, and a you know, generational trauma and spookies. So if you're into something spooky, definitely you should check that out, because it's also out on episodicreading.com.
Episodicreading.com. Go read the stories. Sorry. Go ahead.
Also, everybody forgive me. I feel like this whole time there was like a helicopter that flew over my head for 20 minutes, and there's like people walking by me, so I'm just like, oh, hello. Like, my attention span's bad, so y'all see me just like all over the place. I'm in a crowded park.
Last question before we. I'm gonna ask everybody one last question before we all kind of sign off, and then we have to figure out how to upload this video to the forum, because we knew how to do that in advance. We did. Anyway. The last question that I want to ask you, do you believe in ghosts, or do you believe in circumstance? Which one is true to you?
Bum, bum, bum.
Erin, we're going to start with you because you were the last person here.
Okay. I don't believe in ghosts. It's an ongoing fight with my husband and I, because he's like, this house is haunted because things will fall off shelves when he's around.
Sure.
And I'm like, you should go to bed earlier and get more sleep. And he's like, no, it's the house. And then he has all these elaborate stories about things that happen when he's not around, and how he's been pushed down the stairs and that kind of thing. And
I like
he sincerely believes in ghosts, and that's fine. But I'm like, I think you're just clumsy. And he's just like, no, I swear. So it does cause some friction in our relationship, because I'm trying to keep that away from the children, because I don't want them to be terrified of ghosts, even if they're real. I just would rather not have them do that. So so he's often complaining, and he yells at the house, and he'll be like, house. And I was like, shh, shh, shh. But everywhere we go, there's a poltergeist of some kind. And and
all of a sudden.
He's going to be so happy that I've said this. So circumstance, that's me.
Circumstance. Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
Kayla, you're up next. You really believe in ghosts, or do you believe in circumstance? Which one do you actually believe and not suspect?
You know, it's a toss-up for me, I think, ultimately, because in the light of day, I would say absolutely circumstance, but like when I'm standing next to a ghost, I'm like, definitely a ghost. So like, I don't know. It's hard to know. It's like, you know, I don't know. I'm gonna say it's a toss-up. I'm truly undecided still.
Marie, what you got?
Oh, I have had enough experiences in my life that are weird to the point of, that I believe there's something larger, perhaps a spiritual connection. I don't think I would call it a ghost, but that's terminology that you're going with there. So I've had the encounter on the stairs with dead family members, and I've had kind of ideas that people were going to die, like you experienced.
I mean, just to interject really, really quickly, to, I guess, you know, like further define what I'm asking. Your experience could be, I mean, like as you experience things, it doesn't necessarily have to say that something isn't right or it isn't a ghost, for example, just because it's something that you experience through either a mental illness or whatever it is. Like your interpretation of that event, how did it feel to you? You know what I mean?
My interpretation of the event is I didn't understand it.
So that's a secondary abstaining from answer. Is that what that is? Okay. We got 2 abstains, which are they be the ghost guys. But anyway, we're gonna move on. David, what do you think?
Well, I think my philosophy is that you've heard the old saying, there are more things in heaven and earth. I don't know if I'd call it ghost or not, but I think there are definitely things that are here or whatever that we don't understand yet, just like people didn't used to understand what germs were, or they used to think that mental illness was demon possession. And I think there are things like that, but I don't know if I'd call them ghosts or not, you know, spirits of dead people walking around. But I guess it's just that I think there are a lot of things that right now we don't understand. And maybe once we get to understand them, you know, they'll be explained and we can actually know what they are.
I mean, that's a great point, but also a cop-out answer, damn it.
I think it's a great answer, but you know.
You believe in ghosts or not? Come on.
What about you, Lene?
I did not. I was obviously, as we mentioned earlier when we were talking about how much of a jerk I used to be when I was a teenager, I used to pick on Christians for fun. I'm sorry, Christians. I don't feel that way anymore. I'm old. But when I was very young, I was a jerk. And I liked to spar with people on the street about how irrational they were at all times. I loved it. It was my favorite thing in the entire world. Fast forward 2008, I'm in Ireland. And yes, we were drinking. But we got to a graveyard at the top of the Cliffs of Moher. And the sun is out at 11 o'clock at night. So we're like, oh, we got plenty of time. You know, we're like looking around. And the minute that I hit that gate, sober, instantly sober. A cold I could never ever describe to anybody, and I'm not the person that makes up stories like this because I didn't believe in ghosts at all. I was vehemently opposed to the idea. I thought it was absolutely absurd. Although I do follow quantum physics and think that's very interesting, I don't necessarily have to agree with everything everybody says, right? So I felt that the majority of people that mentioned ghosts or thought about ghosts were just completely full of shit. So anyway, I hit that gate. And it's 11 at night, so you look up and it's golden and purple and beautiful, and you look over in the distance and you see the cliffs. And the ocean's just rolling against it. And the only sound in my ears was my own heartbeat. The wind gone, everything gone. There was nothing. I couldn't feel anything except the hair on my arms raise. And an inexplicable cold. It was like somebody took cold hands and ran them over my neck and down my back. And I had my camera out, which had been working perfectly the entire trip. And then after that graveyard, perfectly the entire trip as well. And I start snapping pictures just randomly around this graveyard. And it would take one really bad picture with all these irregular shapes. And I'm looking in the viewfinder, take a normal picture, then in a regular picture with blurs and orbs and all these crazy things.
Yeah.
And then one time I took a picture and I snapped like this, and I swear that was when that feeling got, it's the soundlessness, the tastelessness, nothing in the air, no wind. And I'm on a cliff top. I just want to point that out. There should have been wind. And
Yeah.
like this graveyard, to further tell you about this place, I mean, people have been being buried there for over 5,000 years. So this is a very ancient place. And I'm standing there and I'm taking this picture and I'm pointed at a particular copse where all of the graves and all of the tombstones had fallen in. They're so old. And you see one Celtic cross leaning on its side, and that was from probably the Middle Ages, I want to say. And
Right.
there's just a bunch of grass, and you can't take 2 steps without tripping over something. Graves are essentially stacked one on top of the other. And I faced this corner, which was darker than the other spots. And there is a black shape literally right in front of me. And I swear to God, it reached out and it touched my face. And I have never, like I said, when I was sobered, like I was terrified instantly. I was like, bye. And I was with my friends. I was like, we got to get the hell out of here right now. And they were like, what are you talking about? Do you feel weird? Because I feel really weird. And I'm like, I feel super weird right now. And as we left, I mean, I hate to say it, but we left our beer, everything. We just kind of threw it down and then hauled out of that graveyard. And I swear to you, it chased us out of that graveyard. And there was a small stream on the way back into the town of Doolin, which is, you know, on the west coast of Ireland. And really, 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 really scary part of the world at nighttime. I just want to throw that out there. But the impending sense of doom and dread was with me, like knives or nails digging into your chest the entire time. It's like right on the back of my neck until we hit that bridge. Once we crossed the moving water, just like the old stories say, nothing. And I swear to God, I was shaking for the rest of the trip, and I was not drunk anymore. Nothing happened. I was just trying to relate the story to other people. We're looking at the pictures in our camera, and everybody's like, whoa, that's nuts. Like, we went to the graveyard earlier that day, and nothing happened. And I'm like, maybe we just like hit it at the right time of night, or maybe there was only 3 of us and nothing happened. I don't know. But yeah, until that moment, did not believe in ghosts. But now, yes, I do. So to answer your question.
That's awesome. That's a great story.
It scared the shit out of me. It scares, I have chills just thinking about it. It scared me so bad. And I don't know what kind of atmospheric disturbance could have eliminated the sound and the wind on a cliff top, but I mean, I'm welcome to interpretations. But anyway. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining
That's
us.
awesome.
And I'm going to yell at everybody because that's the only way that I can hear myself. I have hearing damage. Thank you guys for showing up. Thanks everybody who's tuning in. I will get this video posted and up and ready to go here in just a couple of minutes. Remember, all of our stories are available right now to read at episodicreading.com, and you may read them until November 27th when we go to subscriptions. Also, we will have books available in ebook and hardcover format available on our special website. If anybody has any questions, please, if you have ghost stories you want to tell us something about, you want to ask us a question, we're going to kind of be lurking for the rest of the weekend. So hit us up at any time. Thanks, guys, for coming. I'm glad to see all your faces. Go have lots and lots of fun, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for
Have fun.
moderating today.
See you
Bye,
later.
guys.
Guys,
Bye.
bye.